Hey everybody, welcome to a new episode of The Yak with Mac. I'm Kenny, and this is where we want to inspire, influence, and encourage all of our leaders out there as we now build this great company called the New T-Mobile. We want to encourage you to be the best leader that you could possibly be. And I promised that we would start to go a little deeper, right? So today I want to talk about building your brand and helping your team build their brand. And I'm going to take some material that's right from the AMP site that you should be using in your syncs. If you're not having syncs at least once a month, you're doing yourself as well as your team a real disservice. So make sure that you are having those syncs at least once a month. If you need to have them more often than that, please do that. I can't help but think about this when it comes to brands. You know, tonight there's a special on about MTV. I'm going to get back to that in a second. You might be saying, what the heck does MTV have to do with brands? But when I think about brands, I think about companies. And I think about how companies brand themselves, usually through advertising. Sometimes that's like their first line of branding themselves is through coming up with this great slogan, right? It should be what they actually do every day. And sometimes that can help a company, really catch on. As for instance, FedEx, I remember years ago their slogan was when it absolutely must be there overnight. And they were already doing that for a while, but they just wanted to kind of show that in a commercial. Coca-Cola, think about them years ago. Coca-Cola had to be the real thing as opposed to maybe the fake thing. They had to call themselves the real thing. Nobody was really sure what the real thing meant, but we were like, hey, I got to have Coca-Cola because you know what? It's the real thing. United Airlines years ago branded themselves by saying, fly the friendly skies of United. I love that. I mean, but you think about the opposite of that is flying the very unfriendly or flying the very rude skies. But it was interesting. They became one of the top airlines. I don't know if they ever made it to number one, but they became one of the top airlines, and that was a really successful ad campaign. Maxwell House Coffee always said good to the last drop. Made me wonder what was wrong with the last drop, but it was good to the last drop. And again, Maxwell House that really did a lot for them. There was this little company called Sprint that said that their calls was so clear that you could hear a pin drop. And they got Candice Bergen to advertise that. And that, again, branded not only their long-distance service, that branded the new wireless service that Sprint came out with. So it's important that as you start to think about your brand, that you have some sort of brand statement as well, sort of like the advertising. And so to me, the best brand statement for a company that I can remember is MTV. Now, they have a special on tonight that is kind of reviewing the history of MTV. There must be a new book or something out about them. I think it's on A&E. But it's called I Want My MTV. And just those four simple words really took this little cable station to being this huge thing. The timing was right. The early 80s videos were just starting to get a little bit popular. But here you had a station that 24 hours, all they showed was videos. They had VJs that would announce them, similar like DJs on the radio. But here was MTV's problem. Not many cable companies across the country. Cable was still relatively new. Not many cable companies thought that this was going to be successful, so not many cable companies carried MTV. So MTV got the biggest stars of the day, and they got them to sit down, look in the camera, and they said, hey, you need to pick up the phone and call your cable company and tell them these simple four words, I want my MTV, and just demand that of them. So you have Madonna, Bruce Springsteen, Bono, Sting, any of the big stars of that time shot these commercials for MTV. That really branded them because it's like you can't live without it. If Madonna is telling us that we got to have MTV, we got to have MTV. what a successful campaign that was, and that sticks in my mind because I can remember in the Bronx we couldn't get MTV. We moved out to Long Island, we could, and that was the first thing. And I called, the guy didn't think it was funny. I called up the cable company and I said, "Hey, I want my MTV." He's like, "Okay, you mean you want cable installed in your house?" I was like, "Yeah." He didn't find that funny. But think about what's going to be used, what's a statement that's going to be used to describe you. Now, as you start to do your syncs, T-Mobile recommends 4 questions that you ask your people when it comes to building their brand, but they also recommend, and we also recommend, that you ask yourself these 4 questions. Great questions. So, first one, how do you describe others how would you want others to describe the experience they have when working with you? Let me say that again. How do you want others to describe the experience they have when working with you? So 2 quick things on that. We're raised to believe that we shouldn't worry about what other people think of us. That's probably true in some instances in life. That is not true when you have made the decision to go into leadership. You have to be aware and be concerned with what other people think of you and what their perception is of you. That has a lot to do with emotional intelligence. I promise we'll do a series on that soon. But emotional intelligence, one of the big things on that is being aware of how other people perceive you. Extremely important. Second thing on that is that this came out of the Day of Learning about a year ago. One of the great speakers on that said that your reputation arrives in a room 5 minutes before you do. Thought that was amazing. You think about that. Think about how many times we might get a meeting maker and we look and we say, "Hey, I wonder who's going to be on this call. Wonder who's going to be in this meeting today. Oh, Kenny is going to be here. He talks too much. He's Mr. Know-It-All." Or, "Hey, Kenny's going to be here. He adds a lot of value, to the meeting." Your reputation arrives 5 minutes before you do. So how do you want others to describe the experience they have working with you? You want them to be able to say that, "Hey, Kenny, man, he was on time for calls. He picked up his phone all the time. When we had meetings, he had great ideas and thoughts. He spoke up." You don't want them to say, "Yeah, this guy was always late for meetings. I didn't really get anything out of working with him." So, important question there. Second question, what are the areas of expertise that you want to be known for? And I used to word this question a little bit differently. I used to say, what do you want to be known for? This expands on it a little bit more, right? What areas of expertise do you want to be known for? You don't want to get pigeonholed into, "Hey, I'm only good at Excel." But maybe you're really good at Excel, but you're also good at a bunch of other things. That's okay. But if somebody is having an issue with Excel, for them to call you and say, "Hey, I worked with this guy a few months ago that could probably solve this problem for us," that, my friends, is not a bad thing. That actually is a really good thing. So what are the areas of expertise that you want to be known for? You always want to work on your opportunities, but I always say work on your strengths as well. Third question, what are your current behaviors that align with your aspirations? So if you feel like you want to be here, but your daily behaviors and your daily task and everything you do every day doesn't work towards getting there, then over here is not going to be any good for you anyway. So think about where you want to go and what are the behaviors that align with that, and what are you doing every day to now align your behaviors with those behaviors that align to that place where you want to go. And finally, the fourth question is, what do you need to do differently in order to better shape that desired brand? So again, think about how easy this will be. This is an exercise that you absolutely should do. You sit down, you kind of come up with that brand statement, and you ask yourself these questions. But this fourth one is, now what do I need to do differently? I know what I want my brand to be. I'm probably not there yet. So what are some specific things I need to do every day to absolutely 100% get there and really shape my brand? So recapping those 4 questions, how do you want others to describe the experience they have when working with you? What are the areas of expertise that you want to be known for? What are your current behaviors that align with your aspirations? And what do you need to do differently in order to better shape your desired brand? So these are 4 questions that you should be asking all of your people, your consultants. If you're a district manager, your store managers. If you're a store manager, your consultants or your RAMs. If you are a district manager, you should be asking your director as well. So you see, this kind of works up because these 4 questions is good for someone who works with you as well. They'll give you some feedback on this. But very important that you shape this first. Think about that theory of putting on the oxygen mask on a plane before you put it on a little one or someone that can't put it on themselves. This is the same thing. You as a leader need to build your brand first before you're able to build everybody else's brand. So, for now, this is Kenny with the Yak with Mac. We will talk to you real soon.